I hadn't visited Glacier National Park in, I think it was about 30 years. And I was excited. Had the park changed? You know, my memories were of breathtaking landscapes, rugged peaks, pristine lakes, and diverse wildlife. But while planning our trip, I learned that climate change had changed the park. Overall, the glacier fields have decreased 39%, and some of the glaciers have even decreased their mass by 85%. So I wondered, would it still have the same grandeur, the same beauty? Now before, when we visited the park, it was with my family, the 3 kids, my husband and I, and we stayed there for a while. We actually went on a horseback ride with outfitters, just our family, into the wilderness. We had a whole day horse ride, and then we camped at night. And in fact, my youngest son and I was in a tent together. And, you know, at night I heard some like scratching noises, and I thought, oh God, my husband, he's just pulling a prank, you know. But when we woke up in the morning, there were bear tracks around the tent. Welcome to the wilderness of Glacier National Park. But we also took a road that not a lot of people do in the park. It's not the main road. It was the road to Bowen Lake. And believe me, at that time, I mean, we had a minivan, not a 4-wheel drive vehicle. It had potholes. It was not in good shape, very narrow in some areas, and you didn't know what to do if another car was coming. It was kind of nerve-wracking. But when we got there, it was a beautiful, beautiful view of Bowen Lake. And my kids actually went in swimming, but they said, oh, Mom, it's cold. And we were greeted with a sight that not a lot of park visitors get to see, and that was a black wolf. Yep, we got to see one, and I have a picture of it, and it looks about this big in the picture, so I'm not going to share it with you, but I have a memory that's this big of it. Now, of course, we also drove the Going to the Sun Road, and one of the things I remember the most, well, is me clutching onto the steering wheel, kind of, because on the sides, it just dropped off. That's right, just woof. No barriers very often. And I'm not used to that. And my husband, though, we had one of those big, you know, video cameras at that time. He was out the window, you know, taking videos and really enjoying it. And my oldest son was in the back reading comic books. And we said, come on, Cav, get up, look out the window, look at this beautiful, beautiful sights. And you know what he said? This is what has stuck in my memory the most from Glacier National Park. He goes, no, don't worry about it. I'll just watch the video when we get home. Yep, kids. So needless to say, we really enjoyed our time at Glacier National Park. Well, this time, my cousin and I was driving north to Glacier from Yellowstone. And it can take 6 to 8 hours depending on what entrance you're exiting from Yellowstone. But we decided to spend the night right on Flathead Lake in Polson, and we stayed at a really, really nice accommodation. And I don't know how to pronounce it. It is the Quatucknuck Resort and Casino. I mean, it had clean rooms, very friendly staff, and the cook was great, you know, with good comfort food. I had the best ever chicken fried steak there. It was, again, one of my memories. And then my cousin and I had breakfast sitting outside right on Flathead Lake looking at it. It was so gorgeous. And again, our breakfast was delicious. It was just a beautiful, beautiful setting. And the hotel, like I said, was clean, friendly. And yes, if you went in the casino, you might lose a couple bucks, but I really thought it was a great place to stay. Now, this was off season when we were going. We were going towards the end of September, and you don't need reservations. But otherwise, during the season, you have to have in advance timed reservations. So if you're planning on visiting if you're planning on visiting Glacier National Park during the season, make sure you get those in advance. Now, I talked a little bit about driving the Going to the Sun Road. It kind of goes all the way horizontal across the park. And it is an engineering marvel and a National Historic Landmark. And it took 12 years to complete. I mean, just look at these tunnels. Isn't that fantastic? Like I said, often no shoulder, complete drop off. So if that makes you nervous, the park does have shuttles you can take, and it has some designated stops. So that might be a great plan if you don't really think you want to drive the road itself, or because the park is pretty packed and you're afraid you won't find a parking spot where you want to hike. Oh, I should mention though that the Going to Sun Road is not for every vehicle that's pulling a trailer. If your vehicle trailer combination exceeds 10 feet in height or 21 feet in length, nope, you cannot do the Going to the Sun Road. So then, do the shuttle. I found it interesting that in The Shining, Stephen King's The Shining, the movie, Jack is driving towards the hotel. Well, he's not in Colorado. He is right here at Glacier National Park. Well, that's where the scene was shot anyway. And then they repurposed some of that footage for Blade Runner. I thought that was kind of neat. Now, one stop I was excited about was the historic McDonald Lodge, which sits right on McDonald Lake. It's only about 10 miles from the west entrance. So that was our first stop. And this lodge was built in 1913. Isn't it beautiful? I was really looking forward to going inside and exploring the interior. But guess what? We had missed the closing time by 1 hour. Yep, it was closed and people were just clearing out cabins and doing cleanup stuff. So I couldn't go inside, but I was able to take a nice walk down by McDonald Lake, and it's so, so beautiful. It is a great setting. But, yep, 1 hour too late. Story of my life. Now, Glacier National Park is a hiker's paradise, but of course you want to be safe because there are grizzly bears in the area. But there are short hikes and long hikes. Now, we had limited time in the park, so we just did the very, 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 very beginning of the Granite Park Trail. But look at this sign here. Yep, grizzlies active in the area. I wish we could have hiked more. I'll talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Now, of course, this park has a lot of wildlife, be it grizzly bears, black bears, wolves, elk, moose, hoary marmots, the American pika. But how much did we see of wildlife? Well, we did maybe see some birds flying over. Otherwise, the only wildlife I saw was this stuffed creature, I believe it's a hoary marmot, at the Logan Pass Visitor Center. Yep. And when we were there at the Visitor Center, outside, we're talking to some people. They go, well, you just missed a grizzly bear. Just wandered right through. Yeah, probably only about a half hour ago. Again, story of my life. When they talk about the luck of the Irish, they're not talking about good luck. Now again, if you go to the park and you see the wildlife, you're lucky enough, please stay a safe distance. If you're hiking, make a lot of noise while you're hiking and carry some bear spray and never hike alone. Be careful. So I have to admit, I erred on this trip, planning it. I didn't leave enough time for Glacier National Park. Before when I was here, it was a destination trip. This time it was basically a drive-through trip. And if you're just driving the Going to the Sun Road, yes, you'll see some marvelous views, but you really don't experience the park. So I recommend camping in the park, maybe looking at all the fantastic stars overhead, or taking some great hikes, or maybe a horseback trip, or just swimming in one of the lakes. But whatever you do, take some hikes, enjoy the park. Don't make it a drive-through trip. You're not doing yourself a favor, and you're not getting the true beauty of Glacier National Park. We didn't see that many glaciers, but we might not have been in the right area, so I can't comment on climate change. I can say the park was still beautiful, the air still crisp, and yes, I do want to come back. But when I do, it's going to be a destination, not a drive-through. Well, I hope you've been enjoying our Out West videos, and I hope you subscribe to Prepper Potpourri Escapes, my travel channel. Thank you.